Isn't it funny how all of a sudden in the last few weeks we're hearing so much coverage on mainstream media news about drones and potential UFOs, depending on where you stand on the issue, whether you see these sightings as military drones or unidentified flying objects from outer space potentially. And I don't know if you heard the speech that Trump made a few days ago declaring that the president, Biden, if we still remember him, if he still is president, if he ever was president, but that's a rabbit hole that I'm not going to go down in this video. But yeah, the president knows who's behind these drones. The military know, but for some reason they have chosen not to tell the public. And Trump thinks there's an outrage. He says, why are they hiding it from people when they can see with their own eyes all this activity, and they are alarmed and they're coming up with all kinds of conclusions of their own? Why not put people out their misery and tell them the truth? But they have made the decision not to be upfront about it and to allow people to continue hypothesizing. And Trump doesn't agree with this. And he said that he himself is not at liberty to say anything about it. Bizarre, huh? But yeah, I know what it is, because I've been following this business for a couple of years now, because there's nothing new. These sightings have been happening for years, or at least the last couple of years. And anyone who's been paying close attention, when I say paying attention, I don't mean listening to the news, because the news doesn't talk about this kind of stuff. They've not been talking about it for my entire lifetime, because UFOs are nothing new. We've all been seeing them for decades. And yet all of a sudden, the media is suddenly recognizing them and acknowledging that there is something happening. They have to at least acknowledge people's concerns and recognize all these videos that people are posting all over social media, because otherwise they look completely out of touch. But what are they saying? Not very much. Basically, they're saying they don't know, which is so ridiculous, because anyone who's been paying close attention to this issue over the last few years already does know, or at least we have like some kind of most likely contenders for the truth. And I'm going to talk about a few of them. So what are the possibilities here? UFOs, hobby drones, or planes, or military drones? And if they're military, are they US military, or are they some sort of nefarious foreign operation that we should be worried about? So first of all, are they foreign military drones? Well, if they were, the government would know about it, because they have the technology to be able to track these things. They can track everything using satellites that can detect what you're typing on your iPhone as you're walking down the street. So if there were submarines or ships launching these in coastal areas, as has been suggested, they would know. The US military would be on it. They would be actively looking for them, and they wouldn't be able to last this many days without being detected. So that's ruled out. However, they are allowing people to continue speculating on this, as if they want people to be alarmed about some possible foreign invasion. So on to the next possibility. Are they hobbyist drones? And you could argue that they are potentially, because they are flying over cities in accordance with the law. They're not doing anything that you're not allowed to do with a hobbyist drone. But if they were, the government would easily be able to track where they're coming from, where they're taking off and landing. That isn't something that would flummox them. So why is it that they're not able to confirm this? I say that they're flying them legally, but obviously there are exceptions. If they're flying over airports or military bases, then the government would determine who's operating them and put an end to it. So I would say that yes, there are indeed some hobbyist drones out there that are fueling the fire, because people are capturing all kinds of things, and some of them are legitimate and some of them are not. So there are people capturing planes flying over, and there are obviously then also many sightings of hobbyist drones that are no cause for alarm. But they account only for a certain number of these sightings, and there are far more that cannot be explained. There have been sightings of drones that are way too big to be hobbyist drones, and obviously drones that are coming from the sea. So what are those? So that leads us to the third possibility. Are they aliens? Are they UFOs operated by little green men, or ET, the extraterrestrial? And I sound like I'm taking the piss, but I actually believe firmly in the existence of aliens. I think it's very naive and self-centered to think that we are the only species in the entire universe that is capable of all this. I mean, alien civilizations, I believe, are far more advanced than ours, and we are really primitive by comparison. I mean, it's not that long ago when we were still using steam engines, and to put that in perspective, we've only had our so-called modern technologies for a couple of hundred years, but the universe has been in existence for 13 billion years. So isn't it likely that there would be other life forms that have our intelligence, if not more? And I believe that the US government has been aware of aliens and UFO technology since World War II. I don't know if you're familiar with the term Foo Fighters, but they were glowing objects that were caught flying alongside fighter pilots from British, American, and German forces. Objects flying alongside their planes. And I spotted one of these myself as a kid, way back in the 80s. It's something that I've not really ever liked to talk about, because when it happened, I told all my friends at school, and I got so ridiculed for it that I decided not to talk about it anymore. But I was on a long haul flight with my mom and my elder brother, and I can't remember where we were flying because we took a lot of flights when I was a kid. But it was the middle of the night and I was sleeping, and then my mom woke me up with such excitement because the pilot was making an announcement that alongside our plane there was something that he'd never seen before in all his years of flying, and he urged all the passengers to look, and the entire plane went and peered out the window, and we saw these glowing orbs that were kind of like, I would describe them as glowing in the same way that the moon does, and it seemed to be traveling at the same speed as our plane. And I couldn't really tell the distance, because you kind of need to know the size of the object to know how far it is. But it started off as a glowing ball, and then it turned into sort of a pear shape, and then it split into three, and then it just suddenly zoomed away and disappeared, like at light speed. So I don't know what that was, and the pilot was so exhilarated, and the entire plane, we were all kind of like delirious with excitement and joy. It was actually quite an emotional experience. I had a lump in my throat, like I wanted to cry. And interestingly, I've since heard that this is a common state of emotion reported by pilots who've made similar sightings, that you feel this strange sense of comfort. The entire plane, everyone was just chattering away and everyone was smiling. The mood was so elated. And you could feel it all around. All the passengers could seem to feel the same way. It was like a bonding experience. And it was very moving. So as for the possibility of aliens, I am completely open to that. And I'm not one of those people who doesn't believe something until I've seen it with my own eyes, because that is a very naive way to see the universe. We can only perceive a tiny proportion of what's really out there with our eyes. And then there's the theory that the drones are searching for missing nuclear warheads. But if you think about nuclear warheads and the way you might get 30 of them on a submarine where people are living alongside them in close proximity for months, they have such good shielding that the only way to detect them would be nearby. There's no way that drones flying in the sky could possibly detect them. You would need to be much closer at ground level in order to be able to find them. So that pretty much rules out the possibility of searching for a missing nuclear warhead. And there are also rumors that there isn't a missing nuclear warhead, it's just a missing Geiger counter. However, again, the powers that be are letting the public run amok with these theories, and they're not interfering. And the final theory, which I believe is the most credible, because it's true, is that a couple of years ago, the US Department of Defense awarded a $50 million contract to a private company to test out drones for US military purposes. And this testing has been taking place in those spots where the sightings have been taking place. But this is something that they're not at liberty to talk about, because military operations at this level are not public knowledge. They're not in the public domain, and not even government knowledge. Most people working in government don't know about this. It's the kind of information that is highly classified and kept only within the very top echelons of the military and the government, like the US presidency. Well, I say that, but the fact that this testing is taking place isn't a secret, because the contract is out there. You can look it up yourself. However, it's not something that they talk about, that the military publicly reveals, because they don't want to be telling the public about what kind of warfare technology they're bringing out. This is something that happens secretly, and it always has done. And that is why the president doesn't want to talk about it, because he's not at liberty to. So you're not going to be hearing this from the president, and they're just going to keep you in the dark, but you're hearing it from me. And that's why you're following me. So what do you think about all of this? Do you have other theories of your own? Or do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments. And as usual, please give this video a like. And if you're not already subscribing to my channel, please do so to educate the algorithm and help my performance. Thank you so much.